So today, inside Preston Coroner's Court, Dr. James Aidley revealed his final conclusions regarding the death of Jay Slater. Take a listen to the following. The coroner is now delivering his summing up. He is explaining how Jay's body was formally identified using his fingerprints and palm prints. The post-mortem noted that Jay's body had undergone extensive mummification due to him being out in the hot sun for several weeks before he was discovered on July 15th. Pathologist Dr. Mark Shepherd said Jay's death was probably instantaneous. The cause of death was a severe traumatic brain injury. I hope that is of some consolation to the family that Jay would have been unaware of the situation after his fall. Toxicology tests revealed that Jay had taken MDMA, cocaine and alcohol prior to his death. The Spanish authorities had also conducted a toxicology analysis, which also detected that Jay had also used ketamine, both shortly before his death and over a longer period. The coroner has referred to Jay and Bradley being too drunk to get out of their clothes after one night of drinking in Tenerife. He says this gives some indication of the extent of the partying occurring. The coroner mentions that a common theme throughout the evidence is that Jay's friends have been asked to recall events after consuming copious amounts of drugs and alcohol. When Jay and his friends met up after he had been thrown out of the club due to not being able to stand up, they pleaded with him to come home with them, but he insisted on staying out. Jay then asked Ayab Quazim if he could stay out with him and Stephen Rocas. Ayab told Jay it was some distance away, but he offered to give Jay a lift back in the morning. At around 6:09 AM, Jay sent a Snapchat to Bradley, which showed him to be in the Masca area. Ayab Quazim, who was driving, stopped to buy soft drinks, a Fanta for himself and a Coca-Cola for Jay and Stephen. The coroner is now dealing with the issue of the watch. The coroner refers to various Snapchat messages in which Jay claimed to have stolen a watch. He points out that the brand of watch was different in each message. In evidence, Ayab said people often boosted themselves up in messages. I consider that the watch is irrelevant to subsequent events, the coroner concludes. The coroner is now turning to the issue of knives. Josh Forshaw, who gave evidence at the inquest in May, said that he received a Snapchat from Jay who was lifting up his top and showing kitchen knives inserted down his trousers, quote, in case it kicks off. The coroner points out that Josh didn't ask any questions about this, nor did he mention this to Jay's friends when he took a taxi back to their apartment at 7:30 AM on the morning Jay disappeared. The coroner states, I do not consider that this report with the image of the knives is reliable evidence and is more likely to be social media boosting. When Jay told Ayab Quazim he was going to catch a bus back to his apartment, Ayab told him there aren't any buses. However, Jay said he had spoken to the woman who had asked Ayab to move his car, and she had said there was one in 10 minutes. Ayab said that Jay still appeared to be under the influence, which would make him more confident and impulsive. At 8 AM on the morning he disappeared, Jay's smartwatch recorded him walking. At 8:10 to 8:15 AM, Luisa Hernandez was driving and saw Jay walking along the right-hand side of the road. She said it appeared he was walking in a brisk pace. At 8:21 AM, Jay called Brandon. Brandon said he could see Jay was in the mountains. Jay told Brandon he was leaving the road. Brandon said Jay was not hurt or in distress or frightened, but did not appear to be himself. Something he was unable to explain further when asked, the coroner said. Jay then called Bradley. Jay said he had left the Airbnb to come back and start drinking again. Bradley did not think anything had happened at the Airbnb to make him leave. He asked Jay if he knew where he was and to turn on maps. Jay said it was an hour's drive or a 14-hour walk. At the end of this call, Jay's phone battery was at 3%. Brandon then called Lucy and told her that Jay was up in the mountains. Lucy called Jay several times in which she asked him if he knew where he was. Jay said that his mouth was dry and he needed a drink and was frightened. Lucy told him to go back. At the end of this call, Jay's phone was at 2%. At 8:35 AM, Lucy told Jay to go back again. At 8:49 AM, Jay's phone recorded its last data. At 8:52 AM, Jay called Lucy again. His phone was at 1% and all he could see was the mountains. Jay was found 29 days after he went missing by 2 members of the Spanish mountain rescue group in the Juan Lopez ravine. The first 13 days of the search were conducted by various organisations. By the 13th day, all accessible paths had been searched. The search was complicated due to the vegetation, steep cliffs and difficult terrain. Jay was found 8 metres above the dry riverbed, and his bag was found a further 20 metres above, containing his phone and his passport. He is believed to have fallen 20 to 30 metres. The mountain rescue team said the Juan Lopez ravine is unfrequented by people due to the lack of water source and difficult terrain. Jay's lack of training, poor judgment, lack of sleep and water, inappropriate clothing and a lack of a hat and any after effects of the drugs from the night before were all factors in his fall. They would seriously compromise Jay's ability to react to a slip or a fall. The coroner has ruled that Jay Slater died an accidental death. In conclusion, Dr. James Aidley says Jay Slater died on the 17th of June 2024 in a remote ravine. He fell in a particularly dangerous area, resulting in skull fractures and brain trauma, dying instantly, the coroner says. The conclusion is that Jay Slater died an accidental death without third-party influence. Bringing the inquest to a close, Aidley notes that Slater's death was difficult for his family, who did not know what had happened for nearly a month. He thanks all those who gave evidence to the inquest before addressing the family, saying he hopes the exploration of the facts throughout the inquest rather than conjecture has provided some certainty to them. With that, he exits the courtroom. Okay, so just a few thoughts before we bring today's video to its conclusion, and I may well actually do a much more in-depth video regarding this situation over the coming days. But to me, this ruling of an accidental death isn't particularly surprising. What I did find interesting, however, was the total lack of humility shown by the 2 individuals who refused to provide evidence, those individuals being Brandon and Rocky. What also struck me as a little odd is the whole stolen watch scenario. Now, according to developments discussed in yesterday's video, Bradley stated in court that Brandon should be here to discuss the watch as he knew more about it and the whole situation. Yet conveniently, Brandon is hiding in Tenerife, refusing to give evidence. And on the other hand, Ayub, when he took the stand, was incredibly adamant that no watch was stolen. And it makes me wonder, why is there such a dispute about the whole watch event? Why is it so important to some of Jay's friends not to discuss a potentially stolen item which may or may not have been in Jay's possession? It does seem to be incredibly important to these people to make the watch a non-event. The question remains, why? Now, if it is indeed totally irrelevant to Jay's arrival at the Airbnb the night before he died and actually played no part whatsoever in Jay choosing to travel miles and miles away from his own apartment and stay with 2 people he barely knew, then why are those with information on that watch and that whole situation refusing to show their faces? As I say, I'll most likely touch upon this in greater detail in a future video. Do let me know some of your own thoughts down below regarding today's ruling. As always, many thanks for joining me for this video. I look forward to seeing you all again for the next one. Take care. Cheers.